Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about several market trends that are currently putting a lot of downward pressure on both the new car market and the used car market. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. So the first item that is putting downward pressure on the overall car market is the current state of tax returns. So this year has seen the average person file their taxes earlier compared to normal. And on top of that, people are getting smaller tax returns this year compared to what they had last year. And so this has actually done a number of things to the car market. First off, the tax return rush has pretty much already passed. It happened in January and February this year rather than happening, in March, April, like what we normally see. And again, if you look at the data with both new and used car sales, it definitely supports that. And with people getting smaller tax returns, this is actually, putting fewer people in the car market. And this is more on the anecdotal side of things, but, friends that I have talked to them about their tax returns, they've told me that they have no plans of buying a car. The reason why they filed their tax return earlier is because they needed that money for necessities because, well, the whole economy is not exactly in the best place. And so people are just trying to get money from whatever place that they can, and well, that includes tax returns. And so we're not going to see the normal tax return rush that we normally see in the car market. Now, the next item that is putting downward pressure on the car market, more specifically the new car market, is a lack of incentive from automakers, and more specifically automakers that have had a pretty large buildup of inventory. Not all automakers are created equal in this current market situation. So like Toyota and Honda, for example, they have absolutely no reason to incentivize their product because they currently have a pretty small amount in terms of day supply. Like Toyota, for example, less than 30-day supply with their dealers. Honda, it's less than a 40-day supply with their dealers. And so since their supply is still really constrained, discounts and incentives don't really make sense. But when you have manufacturers like Jeep and Buick and Ram and GMC and Ford that have product that has a day supply of over 100 days, i.e. it would take over 100 days for that product to sell it nationally with the current sales rate, well, they probably need to do something with that product, i.e. they need to start incentivizing that product. But these manufacturers aren't really doing that. Like, there is some incentives that I've seen out there, like $500 rebates, $1,000 rebates, but it's like, listen here, buddy. Some of these manufacturers like Ram and Jeep and Ford, for example, have increased the price of their product like year over year by like $10,000 plus on certain vehicles. I mean, look at the Ram 1500. If you bought a Ram 1500 back in 2019, let's say you bought a Laramie or a Limited, for example, then the MSRP that you would have experienced then compared to now is literally like a $20,000 price difference at this point. But then the manufacturers are like, yep, here's $500 off. It's like, okay, that's just not enough. And so until we start to see real incentives to offset the massive price increases that we have seen over the course of the last year, year and a half, then there's going to continue to be more and more inventory buildup, especially with these manufacturers that have increased their prices by such a large margin. The next item, the third item that is putting downward pressure on the car market, is actually what is currently happening within the used car market. And this is where I will say I was completely wrong. So used car wholesale prices have been increasing steadily over the last couple of months, and on top of that, used car supply has been steadily decreasing. And so I kind of jumped to the conclusion that, oh well, this means that used car sales are going to continue to increase because, well, supply and demand, right? Prices are just going up because there's so much demand. And well, that's not what's happening. Prices are indeed still going up, but demand is actually not necessarily following. Now, yes, year over year, retail sales with used cars has increased. So the used car market is technically hotter. However, we're starting to see some week over week declines with used car sales, which indicates that there was a little bit of a buying rush, i.e. again, that tax rush, and it's kind of pulled back. And on the anecdotal side of things, when I talk to dealers, what they tell me is that if it's a brand new car or a used car under $30,000, it just sells instantly. Like, those cars are really hot, unless they're really, like if it's a used car that's really high mileage, then yeah, it's probably gonna sit. But if it's a relatively new car with relatively low miles, it's gonna sell really fast. Whereas any used car or brand new car that's like $30,000 plus, so over that range, they're not really selling right now. And so there's this very like niche market within the new car market and the used car market that's really hot right now, that's selling really well, but then the rest of the market isn't necessarily selling. And so this is, again, another thing that's putting downward pressure on the market is we're starting to see a pullback with used car sales where fewer people are purchasing these used cars, but at the same time, wholesale values are still going up, so affordability with used cars is declining. Now, the fourth thing that is currently putting a lot of downward pressure on the entire car market is the current interest rate situation. Now, some people comment down below that they've seen rates that are way higher than what we are currently experiencing. But what those people have to remember is that we're coming off of a decade of like historically low rates. So the car market and the average car buyer is used to getting a really low rate. And so when people go in and they go in to purchase a car and they find out that cars are like $20,000 more expensive, and on top of that, they can't get a 1% interest rate. They instead have to pay a 7, 8, 9, 10% interest rate. Like, it's a complete shock, and it just completely pushes a lot of people out from an affordability standpoint. And this is, again, more on the anecdotal side of things, but what several dealers have told me is that with their buyer base, they're either seeing wealthy cash buyers coming in and buying cars, and the reason they're paying cash is because they don't want to deal with the interest rate situation, or buyers that are extremely qualified, so people that have perfect credit. All of the buyers that are subprime, they're still there, but like they're not there in the numbers that, you know, most dealers are used to seeing. And then buyers that are in the, you know, not exactly perfect, but, you know, still have okay credit. So think people between like 650 and, you know, still under like 720. Those people just aren't buying cars right now. So it's like you're either perfect credit and you're buying a car, or you have enough money to pay cash for a car, or you're not buying a car. And so this whole interest rate situation, it's crushed affordability and it's pushed a lot of people out of the car market, and it's putting downward pressure on the market. Now, the next item is in regards to unemployment. The unemployment rate is currently on the rise. And so I feel like this is pretty self-explanatory. If you have higher unemployment rate, then that means you're going to have fewer people that are going to be shopping for a car. If you don't even have a job, then you can't buy a car for the most part, right? You've got to have money coming from somewhere. And on top of that higher unemployment rate, we're starting to just see overall job growth kind of slow down and stagnate, especially in some sectors. And so what this means is that individuals don't have as much power to ask for raises and, you know, other things that would allow them to make more money, which would allow them to pay for these higher car prices that we currently have. And then finally, we have the current banking situation, is what we will call it. I just made a video talking about the Silicon Valley Bank situation and how this could affect the car market. And a lot of people commented that this is an isolated incident. And well, now all over the news, we have pretty much everyone talking about how this is not an isolated incident, how you have tons of money being pulled out from banks and from credit unions because people are freaking out. Like the bank run that I said that could happen, I'm not saying that it's fully happening, but like in certain regions and again, with certain lending institutions, it's definitely happening. And so with this, again, I don't know if I want to call it a full-scale bank run because I'm not an expert in this area, but we'll just call it that for today's video's sake. With this quote-unquote bank run, this is definitely going to make it so that, well, lending institutions are a lot more apprehensive about car loans. And so we literally have this perfect storm where we have higher interest rates compared to what buyers are used to historically, and lending institutions are going to become even more strict about the car loans that they give out. And so this is going to push even more people out of the car market. And so it really does look like things are stacking up here in 2023 to just absolutely decimate car sales, both on the new car side of things and on the used car side of things. I want you guys to let me know what you think about this whole situation and what's your game plan for this situation. Are you just going to continue to wait it out, or do you feel like, you know, it's starting to become the time to, I don't know, maybe deploy and purchase a vehicle? Anyways, I'll see ya.